Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Perception Paradox. And my name is Juvela. I'm your host. And today we are up for a treat. I'm hosting Oisin Lunny, an ecosystem friend, a fellow MC, podcaster, music creator. And I do recall that we met a few years back in Barcelona, one of the events, side events, after party it was. And I recall writing him a follow-up LinkedIn message. Oisin, it was so great meeting you. When I grew up, I want to be like you. And the reason I wrote that, because I've got so inspired that he's been doing public speaking for over 20 years, traveling the world as a professional MC, and also living in nature off a grid. So that was literally something that I thought, yeah, I love it, because that's a very similar way I approach life. And then we started reconnecting in different events, and Oisin was always very kind to share with me the behind the scenes, or to make sure that if I came to the event for the first time, that I don't feel left alone in a way when you don't know how to get to the venue, when you don't know what are the specs of the event. So that was really, really nice and kind, and great time, great conversations, and great learnings. And today I'm hosting him on Perception Paradox podcast, where we talk more about his career and his mindset and philosophy on the events, on the lifestyle. How does he deal with uncertainty, and how comes a musician became a marketing pro and then turned into a professional public speaker, all of that. So if you're considering your career change, if you're looking for some positive inspiration, some presence and learnings, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Juvela, and welcome to Perception Paradox. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Perception Paradox. Today I have with me Oisin Lunny.
Hey, Juvela,
How are you today?
How are you doing? Great to see you.
Great to see you too. And so for the ones who don't know Oisin, you can meet him in the biggest and also smallest events everywhere in the world. He is someone who travels with his voice, creates engaging experiences on stage, asks very deep and smart questions, knows how to listen, and besides that, does a bunch of cool stuff, from music creation to being very original with the content, and also living off-grid. So I think we're going to dive into many topics today, from career, from lifestyle, to actually overall health and living outside the structure, society pressure. So where do we begin, I guess? How are you today? That would be a great start.
Oh, I'm great, Juvela. Thank you so much. It's great to see you. It's great to be here on the podcast. You know, I've been enjoying your chats with folks like Benjamin Constantini from Sesamers, and you know, some people I've known for a long time and I really like. And it's great how I see you speaking and emceeing at different conferences and speaking to really interesting people. So I'm thrilled to be here. All is good. I am here in Spain, where I live with my wife and our dog and our cat, and we live off grid. So at the moment, it's an interesting week because it's raining a lot, and there's lots of things happening to do with the rain. So we literally are at the end of a dirt track, and that's how you find us. We're actually quite difficult to find. But if you drive down into the local village, the road that we usually use to get to the village is now a river because of all the rain. So we kind of have to drive a little bit around. It takes like an extra 10 minutes. It's fine. It's not a big problem, but the trees are very happy. They're soaking up all the water, and it's all good. Todo bien.
Yeah. So I think I know where I would like to start, Oisin. So if we look into the world, and if we look into these human beings, we're all those small pieces of atoms, right? And we attract what we radiate, and we also are able to redirect the temperature in the room. So that comes a lot with the job as an MC, master of ceremonies on stage. And you strike like someone who is always showing up, present with open heart, and like someone who is more here to lift each other up rather than to put someone down. Where do you have this strong positive vibration coming from you? Because people want to hang out with you, right? They feel safe in your environment. They really enjoy going on stage when you invite them or when you interview. And that comes with some kind of, I think, some habits and mindset. So were you always that way, or?
So kind of you, Shavile. Thank you so much. I'm, just that's it. It's you've made my day already, and we've only just started. But thank you. Yeah, I do kind of consider myself to be a positive person. I think this has been developed over many, many years, and after. I remember in particular having one realization that no matter how much I worried about a situation, I always seemed to get to the same destination. And so I actually had a choice on how I could get to the same destination. Did I want to stress myself out and worry about everything, which is, really human and really natural and understandable? Or could I possibly just dial it down a bit and maybe take a slightly less stressful route because it's going to end up in the same place anyway? And maybe trying to be mindful of things, trying to be less, anxious about things will open up the possibilities that you can see because you're less kind of tunnel vision on a particular outcome. And then you kind of open up your life to serendipity as well. I'm going to mention a book. I don't know if it agrees with everyone, but I really did get a lot out of reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that kind of helped me kind of reframe things in a certain way. And I think when you deal with something as, organic and, volatile and, interesting as events where things can change every single second and you sort of have to be fully there and fully present and listening to everything and making sure that you can be at the right place at the right time and say the right thing to help things go very smoothly. I think having that attitude towards being present is very helpful.
I love that book, actually. And talking about this positive mind, a good friend of mine, Dan Tyre, we kicked off last year with his episode about setting goals. He's one of the most positive person also I've ever met. And apparently he wasn't always that way. Up until a point where he was like, okay, maybe I can choose the way I look into life. And he recommended this book called Learn Optimism, how you can rewire your brain and your attitude towards the situations, what you've been just saying, right? Like at the end of the day, we end up in the same kind of end goal. So the question is, how are we gonna get there and how are we gonna approach it? It's easy to get into the loop. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to add that book to my reading list. Thank you very much. One thing that I found really helps, which is a bit of a life hack, if you like such a thing. I've always been kind of interested in meditation and interesting ways to self-regulate, if you want to use that term. And maybe like 15 years ago, I after thinking and investigating it for quite a while, I went and did some transcendental meditation, some TM. And, I was pretty kind of cut and dry about it. I said, I'm going to do the course, do the weekend course or the 2-day course, whatever it is, the kind of introduction. I'm going to get, basically what they do is you go through a kind of ritual, you're sitting there, there's a few people there, there's a guide there. And at the end of it, you're given a mantra, which is kind of a phrase that you repeat that's unique to yourself. And this is something you take away. So I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get the mantra. And then that's kind of it. I don't really want to join an organization or a group like this, but I think it could be beneficial and useful. And that's really what I've done. And I've found that to be fantastic. So in terms of keeping calm, in terms of finding a nice balance, the metaphor I'd use is that life is full of, waves. You're in a boat, you're on the ocean, and the waves can be pretty choppy sometimes and pretty dramatic.
It can.
Right. And I think if you have some kind of regular practice, this could be meditation or breath work or whatever you find that works for you. But I found it sort of just calms the waves. It's interesting. It's like the waves are, maybe you just have a bigger boat or something. You're not kind of rocked around by the waves so much. The sea is just a bit calmer. And I found that to be very helpful in terms of doing events that are very intense And, I'll kind of try and find a bit of space to meditate first thing in the morning. So when I kind of arrive, I'm there, I'm ready to help everyone. I'm in a good space.
Okay, yeah, I recall you mentioning that during Valencia Digital Summit that, oh, yeah,
Yes.
I've just done transcendental meditation. And I'm like, yeah, I do sometimes meditation, but like, I've never got maybe that actively into it, which is I'm now trying to more integrate into this year. Or I maybe have more different type of meditation, which is active. It's just more like getting on the run, on a bike, or just having a long walk with no information flowing through the headphones, or just with a silence. So I think sports is my reset.
I love it. That is a great way to look at it. And it's whatever works for you, whatever gives you that state where things are a bit less kind of hectic and you're a bit more relaxed and a bit more present. If you can find something like that, like sports or meditation or yoga or anything, whatever it is, writing, that's so valuable just to identify that and to try and remember to do it, because it can help everything else that you do.
I love it. And so you've just mentioned also the thing about serendipity, and that's a word we keep hearing a lot. Serendipity, manifestation, visualization. Nowadays it became this kind of a hook. So what does the serendipity mean to you, and how did you find it out?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Do you know what? I remember many, many moons ago having a meeting with this really cool guy at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. And I think it was my first South by Southwest, and I was determined to make the most of it. And so I kind of did a schedule and I had a big list of things and yada, yada, yada. And honestly, I just once I got there, I decided a bit more to go with the flow. And I just had 24 hours of the most serendipitous happenings. Like literally the person I'd think it would be a good idea to connect with would be standing next to me in a queue for, a music gig. It was just serendipity after serendipity. Things just happened. And I had a meeting with this really interesting guy from a mobile app company the next day. And I said, we kind of sat down and it was obvious we were both hungover. We were just ended up talking. We're like, did you have fun last night? Yes, it was great. And he said, how do you find South by? And I said, I've had 24 hours of pure serendipity. It's been like one good thing after the other has just happened. It's been amazing. And he said, well, this is the thing about an event like South by Southwest, because it does take quite a bit of effort to actually get here, to come from all over the world. It takes some effort to get the cost of a ticket, to get the accommodation. It is some effort. But then what it means is you've kind of got the best people from film, the best people from music, the best people from technology. And South by Southwest operates as a petri dish for serendipity. So if you're kind of in this space with really interesting people, serendipity just happens because you are standing in the queue for the street food next to so-and-so from a company you really want to connect with. And I think this is the magic of events, because the folks, as you know yourself from being a brilliant event MC, and I see you all over the world and all over the place, it's like if you go to an event, you have an interest in that subject matter, it takes some effort to get there, to get the ticket, to travel, etc. And then you are standing in the queue for the street food next to Shivile, you're standing next to Ben, whoever it is, and the serendipity can happen. So I think serendipity is an element of just, being open-minded and kind of relaxed enough to see opportunities that maybe are unexpected. That's another thing. Just
I love it. Yeah.
Not necessarily, because if you're so focused on the outcome, you might miss, that chat with the person in the street food queue that could just open up an entirely new world for you.
But I find it a bit also tricky in a way, because I'm all about the serendipity and flowing, and that's the thing. That's how I've been rolling in life. Obviously, you have sometimes strategic direction and the goals, but I also find it tricky in a way when it comes to business making, let's say. So where is that borderline, right? When you come to the event to do your business, and how much do you leave for the serendipity? And it's always, I find this a conflicting situation, especially when you speak with some salespeople who are more numbers driven, and then you speak with some community people, and everyone has his own different approach. How do you navigate that? Because then we can just end up visiting many events and leave the final kind of outcome, whatever it is, for something that might happen, might not, and come back maybe without the achieved result if you're, let's say, a representative of something.
Well, do you know what? That's kind of how I got into doing what I do, is going to events on behalf of tech companies. So
Huh?
I would typically go to an event in the field marketing or market development function. I was a senior market development manager for a CPaaS company that provided tools and solutions to folks, the GAFA companies, etc., some like major global enterprises. And my role there was to go and to generate leads and to generate partnerships and to see which way the wind was blowing from the thought leaders on stage in terms of where our technology could go next. And basically my job was to get out into the world and make noise about the company and bring back sales leads. So I think there are different approaches. I think serendipity can happen in many different functions. Obviously, you have a goal in mind, and particularly if you're working for a company, you're going to have targets and metrics, and you're going to be measured on stuff. So you can have a kind of healthy attitude towards, meeting all of your goals, meeting all of your targets, but also being open to serendipity and seeing what might happen. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about balance. I think it's good to let yourself off the hook, if you like, because there's enough pressure from the world and from those metrics and targets and all the rest. If you can have some kind of a good time while you're doing all of this work and meeting all of your
Just go for
targets,
it.
then why not? That's it. So
Yeah.
it's all about balance. It's such a cliche, but it really is.
It is, and I think when what I would add here, when you come with curiosity and you just don't come with one-way agenda, we tend to be. I've noticed so many people just coming for an ask, but they forget that it comes with a give in a way. That's how
Yes.
the relationship is being built. And I never think about the queuing in line. Some people come already stressed because of the life or environment's expectations. And what you were mentioning about queuing for this burger or a beer or just the toilet, people miss so many shots because if someone comes alone, instead of figuring out who is around you, everyone is now on the phones, right? I noticed that's happening
True.
way more often than it was a
Yeah.
decade ago, that we
Yes.
lose the spot because we rely so much on just on the apps and on us being on the screen. So I think that kind of
Well,
cuts down the opportunities as well, in a way.
yeah,
I don't know.
it's very addictive technology. I think that basically a metaphor I heard recently was, magic happens when you step onto the doorstep of your comfort zone and take a look inside. You don't have to kind of, leap off the cliff or whatever metaphor that you that you're looking for. It doesn't have to be traumatic, but just if you go to the edge of your comfort zone and do that habitually and try and do that regularly, particularly if you're at events, that really is where the magic happens. I mean, when I used to do events, when I was employed for companies in market development and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
I absolutely, I would always encourage my colleagues just to not hang around together. Because you'd see that people would go to an event to be a team of salespeople and they just end up chatting to each other. And that's kind of, I won't say it's insular, but it's human nature. We're social animals. We like to hang out with each other. It's kind of normal. So you have to be a bit conscious if you go to an event, just like don't see your colleagues till the end of the day. Just go and network and chat to people and see where it can bring you. And I think you kind of open yourself up to more interesting opportunities if you are on that doorstep of your comfort zone.
100%. So talking about the doorstep and this kind of opportunities and comfort, you've been doing a regular job, commuting in the busy UK daily to work and opening up yourself opportunities in marketing field. And then right now, what you've been doing and the way you've been living your life is completely the opposite, I would say. Living off the grid, doing the work as a professional public speaker, traveling the world. And how did this big change happen? Because it's not just moving from one house to another, it's actually redefining your lifestyle and the pace of life.
Question. Thank you so much. So, basically back a million years ago, like the 90s, I was in a band. I was very, into music, and we toured
Yeah.
and we released records, and we actually had a career, which is so rare in the music industry. And we did that for a while before the band naturally broke up, as some bands do. And then I heard about this new thing called the internet. Some friends of mine were working in it, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is the future of music. I need to be in here. And the more I discovered about the internet, the more I thought, actually, this is more exciting than the music industry is at the moment. I need to be working in here. So I got some training. I did this course for folks. It was kind of the internet for dummies and making your own small business. It was like coding using Notepad and how to use email and how to use a search engine. It was really early doors internet. And then I got a job answering the phone at 4 a.m. to drunk English guys, basically, doing tech support, and I worked night shifts sometimes. But like all of this was very intense training in how all this stuff fits together. And then that led to, over a decade, but it was like 15, 20 years in the corporate world. Being an account manager, a product manager, a country manager, a marketing manager.
Wow.
It's sort of roles that were in the middle of an organization. So the spoke of the hub. So, I'd be surrounded by experts who were really good at doing their thing. And my job would be to kind of connect them and make sure they were all going in the same direction. And which is a bit like being an event MC, if I'm honest. So you're kind of just trying to help other people and bring out the best in them in a coordinated and central way. And the shift away from, commuting for 20 hours a week minimum, which I was not a fan of. And now I live off grid in Spain near Barcelona. This is really because of a decision my wife and I made, which was that we really wanted to live somewhere different and have a different kind of lifestyle. And between one thing and the other, she got offered this really amazing job over in Barcelona. She designed the master's degree for one of the absolute top universities here, one of the top tech universities. And she kind of did this master's degree, designed it, put together all of the material and recruited the teachers and all this stuff. So that was like this kind of dream job. And as a result of this, we thought, well, this really is our opportunity. We can actually move from the UK to Spain and kind of embark on this next stage. And so we rented for 4 years in a little village called Tiana, which is utterly beautiful, near some friends of ours. And then over the course of 4 years, my wife really did all this work looking for a property that was in a certain amount of disrepair, so it was affordable, but had lots of potential. And after 4 years, she found it, and that's where we are now. And we've kind of spent 4 years doing up the place. And so, as part of this move, I resigned from my job in the UK. We both moved to Spain, and really that's where my freelance career started. Now, talking about serendipity, I was so lucky in that some of the companies I've been working with in my role as the person who goes out and speaks at events to generate business and to do that market development side of things, because it ended up being a lot about public speaking and moderating panels. One of those organizations in particular, it was Swift, who are behind Cybos, who are behind the Swift money transfer code. They're a huge global organization. They are just amazing. And Cybos reached out and said, hey, more or less, I'm paraphrasing, but they kind of said, hey, you know that thing you did in Toronto a few years ago where you had that panel and it was all those CEOs and it just went really well. And, that was a great panel. It was so much fun. Could you come back and do that for us, but for 4 days? Because we're going to have this special stage called the Spotlight stage. And we need somebody to do that thing for 4 days. And I said, well, absolutely, I'd love to. But I've just gone freelance, so I won't be attending the conference in terms of business development. I would be somebody that you hire as a freelance event MC. And they said, absolutely, send us a quote, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really, things kicked off from there. So I was so lucky with that. Obviously, it's because of things that happened previously and the timing was great. So again, that was, I don't think you make your own serendipity, but that was a serendipitous, maybe you do, I don't know. But that was very serendipitous timing. So I got to really start a career as a professional MC, having done it a little bit for market development. That's really where it kicked off.
Lovely. That's great. Congrats and good for you. But it's always shiny at the beginning, it kicks off and so on. But when it comes to moving from corporate and a very secure environment and stable income, freelance opens up different doors of your patience, on your independence, on your income fluctuation. How did you manage this transition from going corporate to self-employed? And how did you deal with the uncertainties? Because it is uncertain, right?
That's absolutely, that's a great question. Thank you. The thing is, I was kind of used to that very uncertain, very volatile world where, you know, you don't know where the money's coming from really. You can't predict it, and you do run out, and then you have to sell things, and then you kind of, like the kind of ups and downs of being a full-time musician. It's like that is a very unpredictable career, to be honest. And I was very lucky in that I was in a band back in the 90s. We actually got a record deal. We actually toured. We
Wow.
got some money. It was, we were so lucky to be there and doing that at that time in history, because I think it's much, much more difficult these days. But when I started working in the corporate world, the regular paycheck, aside from times when, I got made redundant a few times, and that was kind of, tough. It was challenging, but ultimately positive in the long run. Going back to that insecure, volatile world where your cash flow is very unpredictable, that was challenging at times. And, we did kind of go right to the edge of our capabilities, shall we say. But over the long run, it's kind of worked out. So what can I say? I've been very lucky and been very blessed to work with companies who are wonderful, and they invite me to come back and do it again. So that's,
Lovely.
you can't really ask for more. It's just amazing. So yeah, it has been, hasn't always been smooth. It hasn't always been easy, but it's been very worthwhile.
That's amazing. Happy for you, and congrats, Oisin.
Thank
This
you.
is great. So, talking about now your job as an MC, and you also been still creating the music, newsletter, etc., because you still have this back in the days. Did you have a rock band? No, was it?
We weren't.
Or no?
We weren't really a rock band.
Not a rock band.
I can explain. It was the
Please
early
do.
90s. So
Uh-huh.
we were a brave fusion of, you can probably tell by looking at me, of hip hop beats and Irish music. And it was really just, I know, right?
Love it.
It was the music that we loved. And we brought it all together because that's kind of what you could do in the early 90s with samplers and, new technology like MIDI and all this stuff. So we sampled Irish music and hip hop and soul and funk and music from all over the place. And we really had a great time. It was fantastic. It was a wonderful thing to do. So, God, where was I going with this? So yeah, so that was the music side of things.
Yeah.
And
I just asked about the music, and what role did you play in the music?
right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was going back in time there, reminiscing.
Yeah.
So
Since
my
we
job
got
was
there.
to be slightly out of focus in the background. I was the kind of the programmer, the studio nerd. And so my job was really to understand how this computer could speak to this mixing desk and how these frequencies could come together. And it was my
Wow.
job to make the music and the backing tracks and do the technology side. So you could say I was the CTO of a very basic tech hip hop band. It was so much fun, I have to say. We played some huge venues. We did some big support gigs. We recorded vinyl cassette. It's that long ago, CDs, and we had like a 4-year career, which is really exceptional, and
Yes.
that kind of gave me a great passion for music. So I keep that alive today, in that I have a radio show every 2 weeks. It's called Geek Pie Radio. It broadcasts every Saturday from midday CET on slackcity.org.uk.
Love it.
Find out all about it on my website, oisinlunny.com, and you can sign up to get my mixtapes there. And that's just a way of, supporting musicians. And also it's an excuse for me to listen to music. And so it's something I absolutely adore doing. And I think what I find is it's important to kind of carve out something that's really unrelated to work, because it balances it and it gives you that bit of space. So it's important for me, I think, to just like keep on doing the radio show. I don't know if anyone listens. When I go to conferences, people come up and say, I really like your radio show. So I know that people do listen. I have no idea how many people listen, but that's not really the point. It's just really to kind of keep that creative output and keep that space in your life for kind of balancing out all of the work side of things, which can be pretty intense.
So talking about intense work, what do you like most about your job?
the thing I like the most is that you're always learning. I learn something from every single thing, every single moment at any event. So whether you're kind of moderating a fireside chat with, like somebody who's just from the absolute peak of industry. I had a chat with Sir Martin Sorrell last year at DMXCO, and he is a gentleman who founded WPP, which became the world's largest advertising and marketing agency. WPP stands for Wire and Plastic Products. So back in I think in the 70s or 80s, he bought this shell company for £1 million called Wire and Plastic Products, and he turned it into this kind of mothership of ad agencies called WPP. And I think at one stage it was worth £24 billion. So that's quite the increase. And he was the highest paid executive in the entire industry. So I had a chat with him at DMXCO last year, and I'll be there this year as well. Looking forward to that.
Lovely.
And, if you speak to somebody from that level, it was very much about just, holding on and, letting Sir Martin do his thing and just being ready at a second's notice to fill in when he was having a breather. And then I'd ask the next question, and then he would just power on and go through the next example, and then there'd be videos, and then you'd be kind of ready for another break. So that's kind of different. He doesn't need any guidance whatsoever. You're just there to really fill in the silence and kind of dovetail it and make sure it goes on time, and, encourage the audience to show their respect and all this kind of thing. And then for other situations, but you learn a lot from doing that. For other situations, maybe it's somebody's first time in a fireside chat or in a panel. They might have some questions, so you give them a bit of coaching backstage just before you go on in terms of how to feel happy and relaxed and calm and confident and all that kind of thing. And, at the end of every day, there's always things that come to mind. It's like, you know what, that was fine, but I'll do it like this next time. I'll do it better next time. So that's the thing I love the most, is every single day is a learning experience. And that really works for the way I learn.
That's beautiful. And well, many people, the job as an MC sees like just this one final output where people come on stage and you bring this whole energy and you narrate it, everything goes smooth. So it's just part of this kind of whole picture. And that's the main idea. How much preparation you do before the event, and how does it look like for you? Because also everyone does it very different way. How do you approach, let's say you've got an event and it's a new one, you've never been there before. How long does it take you? What is your routine and structure?
Another great question, right? I think it depends, which is a slight cop-out answer, but it depends very much on the nature of the event. Where it is, what the culture is. Do you need to align yourself with the tone of voice in advance? Are you familiar with the tone of voice? It's like, my job in its core, our job as MCs, is to make sure that the speakers feel amazing, they feel calm, they're ready to come on stage and deliver their best presentation, their best fireside chat, and it all goes really smoothly for them. And they get the full respect and attention of the audience. So you want the speakers to be happy. You want the audience to be happy, to be psyched and ready for this amazing speaker who's going to come on the stage, and to have a great time when they're in the audience. So happy delegates, happy speakers. And then you want the event organizers to be completely just fine. It's like nothing's a problem. Everything's going exactly to time. Everything's smooth. It's all good. And this is another reason why I love doing what I do, is because it's quite a specialist skill. And it's a skill that you accumulate the ability to do by doing it many, many tens or hundreds of times. And so in terms of preparing for a new partnership and a new event, there's a fair amount of immersion. It's very much about communication and understanding what the organizer wants. You want those three kind of main groups of stakeholders to be very happy. Is it a transformational event? Are you expecting people to come in? There's a great mechanic called the event canvas, which can help one really understand the point of an event. And I'm sure you're familiar with this, and lots of your friends will be familiar with this. But, folks come into the event, and depending on where they are on the stakeholder map, what do you want them to learn? What experiences do you want them to have? And ultimately, what do you want them to leave the event thinking? Do they want to be inspired to make certain choices, to investigate certain technologies, to be better informed about certain situations. It's like just to be aware of what the organizer wants to happen to the delegates, and that can be mapped out in different ways. Another thing that's very important, if it is, it's not always possible, but if possible, to have a call in advance of any fireside chats or panels and to agree the talking points. I think it's very important not to have the discussion beforehand, because if you do that, you kind of risk dulling the natural curiosity and reactions of the moderator. I think it's very important to like agree bullet points, but then improvise on that, because that means you get some kind of a natural reaction to what's happening on stage for the audience. They know it's real. And if it's very polished and a bit too manufactured, that's fine. That has a place. But for the kind of events I would say that you and I do, it's very much more about bringing that positive energy to the stage and having a real experience on the stage. So be prepared, but maybe not too prepared. If you're super too prepared, that can kind of turn down the excitement of it. And I think also it's very important to agree on the strategy for time management, because for some events in some places, like I've done events in Spain where the timing is kind of okay. It's okay. If it runs into this, it's fine. It doesn't matter so much. We're a bit more generous with it. If there's transport issues, maybe you have to be a bit more generous with it and a bit more flexible with it. And then other places I've done events, most of them I'd say it's really important to finish exactly on time, because there's so many other variables in there and you have to be so respectful of it. For instance, there might be a coffee break or a lunch break where sponsors have arranged to have meetings with people. And if the stage overruns by 10 minutes, the sponsors are getting 10 minutes less of their time that they have come to the event in partnership with. So there's so many knock-on effects of absolutely so many dependencies. So kind of be clear about the time. And then another thing I would say is be very mindful of people's pronunciations and preferences, because it's kind of table stakes in terms of showing respect for the speakers. And as you would do with a podcast guest, but maybe on a kind of smaller scale, it's important to know a bit about the people that you're speaking with on the stage before you actually go onto the stage, because it can be bad form if you're introducing somebody and then you pronounce their name wrong or you know nothing about them. So it's all about respect. It's all about communication, synchronizing, making sure that you have all the tools in place to give the audience a great experience, give the speakers a great experience, and to give the organizers a great experience.
Bingo. All right. So we've just covered the before the event, during the event, and what do you do after the event? Well, you give lots of your energy, right? And it takes, let's say, 2 days, sometimes 3 days, the event. What happens after?
Sometimes it's another event, which is great.
How do you recalibrate? Or I think you just get into this spiral high. You just keep going, and you know that you have to do it.
Do you know, I used to be intensely shy, which people find surprising when they see me on stage, because I've done it so many hundreds of times. I'm totally relaxed. I love being on stage. It's fine. I'm just there to, make everyone's life easier, to make everyone happy, to keep everything running smoothly. I love it. It's such a privilege to do this job. So I used to be very shy, but what I found is that when I kind of broke through the barrier of my kind of natural shyness and reticence to go on stage, which does sound implausible, but it's completely true. I found that after, the first 100 times, my goodness, like pretty nerve-wracking. The first time, utterly terrifying. After 200 times, a bit easier. After 300 times, great. I love being here. The thing that was kind of surprising to me is how much energy I get from doing what I do. So, when I do events, often folks like speakers or delegates will say, "Where do you get your energy? You're just at 100% minimum for everything all day." And the thing is, I get lots of energy from doing it. I can't explain it, but that's just it. So like for me, it's, you know, a 4-day event, one event, another event, another event. It's all good. I'm getting lots of energy from the experience of doing it. Where it's time to maybe find a balance and unwind between events, I do like to meditate, or, you know, like to find a bit of space, because that is just a great reset. You know, for somebody who's maybe naturally shy, just head off, find a bit of space, meditate, then you go back in. It's all good. After an event where I have a break of a few days, I mean, as mentioned earlier, we live off grid. It's back to the farm. There's always something to do here. It's,
I can imagine.
you know, digging, you know, cutting logs, using the wood chipper, putting up fences. You know, there is always stuff to do. And I do podcasts as well, like your good self. And this is something I really love. So depending on the schedule, what I try and do, because it's video podcasts I mostly do these days, like your good self, is I'll try and do the podcasting stuff here at home where we are now. And then the events are for the events. And so that's a kind of nice balance as well over the 12 months of the year.
100%. And how is the podcasting going so far?
It's good. Thank you so much. I've done a bunch of branded podcasts. Like I did one with Siemens Advanta, which is a IoT and industrial IoT company. I did one with Harman Automotive. That was 2 series called Always Ready. But my absolute best client really is Harman Consumer, and they make things like AKG microphones, JBL earbuds, and they are huge. So most stereos in most new cars in the world are made by Harman. Even if it's, you know, a known brand that doesn't say Harman, it's probably Harman under the hood, because they do a lot of work with OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers. Most cinema screens in the world have JBL and Harman components. Most Bluetooth headphones, most Bluetooth speakers in the world are made by Harman or a Harman company. They are huge. So they own JBL, AKG, Bowers and Wilkins, Marantz, Denon. They are absolutely the biggest and the best. And sorry, that's a long way of telling you I do a podcast with them. I'm a huge fan. But we are now on episode, I think it's 98 of the Audio Talks podcast, which is incredible. That's been going for 5 years. Yes, the next series 13, has been confirmed, and we're going to be hitting episode 100. So
well done, Oisin. Congrats.
Thank you. So the last discussion that we had on Audio Talks was with a gentleman called Andrew Melchior, and he is the Chief Technology Officer of Massive Attack, and he's also worked with David Bowie and Björk and, you know, all these luminaries of music, and he has a really unique viewpoint, a really uniquely informed viewpoint on the nature of copyright in the age of generative AI and what it means if some tech companies are saying, hey, copyright doesn't matter, it's all training. And, you know, what does this mean for the idea of, you know, humanity owning the work that they create, or is it owned by a tech company that uses it for training data? It's really interesting stuff. You know, he's not like a AI doomer at all. He's just saying, you know what, you know, we need to manage this properly in terms of copyright, in terms of creators getting paid. And he's got some brilliant ideas, and he's made some great kind of technology and patents. So that was the last chat. I've spoken to other people on the podcast, like
great
AI
teaser.
Rama. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just look for Audio Talks wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
And the podcast voice is back. Amazing. We're gonna leave the links in the show notes. Love it.
Thank you. I will send you those links.
Okay.
Other guests have been people like A.R. Rahman, Ted Cohen, who's the godfather of digital music, Imogen Heap, Suzanne Chani.
Wow.
Carl Cox, that was amazing. Techno god, Carl Cox. So it's, there's lots there. 98 editions of Audio Talks. Just check it out in the show notes.
We'll do it. Yeah, we'll leave it there. But you know, Oisin, what's so great to hear from you and a bit to connect the dots, that at the end of the day, over the course of your career and life, you still stick to the things that you were curious since early age, right? Music, technology, innovation, some kind of a change. At the end of the day, those industry topics, they are part of your current lifestyle. It's just integrated in different form and shape, which is amazing. So you kind
Thank
of
you. Yes,
allowed it to lead you, in a way.
there is a North Star there, even if you can't always see it. So that's a beautiful thought.
All right, so the final topic I would like to touch base before we wish everyone a great day. It's a bit related with health. So the lifestyle we're, let's say, pursuing, which is a constant traveling, very weird working hours. The event can be for 12 hours. It can be very late in the evening, or weird eating timings. Even this information, which seems maybe kind of random to mention, but if you have an event every week, it does affect your life in a way. So how do you make sure that you're still feeling your best while being constantly on the move and working such an inconsistent schedule of work?
Great, great question. I think, well, obviously, you've kind of laid it out there. It is unorthodox. The timing's all over the place. When you're traveling, you tend to arrive kind of late the day before. Sometimes, everywhere is closed. You get a bite to eat. You're getting up really like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever, usually making your way to the venue. You got to be there before anyone else. Will there be food at the venue? You don't know. So you kind of have to, preload it, your routines, to make sure that you're not just eating, pieces of bread all day or something. So something I like to do is take supplements like vitamins and that kind of thing. I've started taking creatine because a lot of my friends in the biohacking community swear by it, and apparently that's really good. I that's what they say. So I need all the help I can get. And I try and do a little bit of yoga every day if there's space on the hotel room floor. There isn't always space. The floor sometimes it's just not possible. But try and do a bit of yoga because that just kind of sorts out your posture. Take some supplements with you. Magnesium is great. Zinc is great. Vitamin C, absolutely superb. And just kind of, try, and when you are traveling, if you have the option between going for some really kind of fast food that's maybe unhealthy, or you see a place doing ramen and it's obviously freshly prepared and it's got ginger and all these great antioxidants, try and go for the ramen and try and go for healthy food, because you need the help if you're doing this kind of work.
But ramen is heavy. But talking about you speaking right now, I can see you so clearly preparing for your trip to Japan. I can't wait that to happen. Small rooms, no place for yoga, ramen. I can clearly see that.
I'm ready for Japan. If you're watching, you're from Japan, you've wanted MC. Honestly, I've never been, but it's so high on my bucket list. I'm 100%. Making big plans.
And if you're looking for a co-host for Oisin, I'm ready to jump on the plane.
Listen, Jivile and Oisin is a dream team.
That would be a great combo, I think. Actually, it would be really fun. That would be lots of humor, I assume. And health
way
tips.
Too much fun. Yes. Yeah, humor, health tips. But this is the thing. You're actually, in that world, you're so much more than I am. You do so much fitness work, and as you said, this is kind of your meditation. So I love that. I think like a biohacking event in Japan. I mean, that might be.
Well, that would be great. So, dear organizers, if you can hear us, clap twice. You can reach out. So, talking about then events. So, final question. So, first of all, how do you find events, and how do events find you when you start booking your gear?
That's again a great question. So, it's a bit of a mix. Some events come in via the contact page of my website, which I'm very grateful for. So folks will be kind of looking and somehow reach my website, and then I'll get an email saying, "Hey, are you free?" So I think it's very important in this era, even more so with AI search results, etc., to be kind of putting your best foot forward in terms of your online portfolio, so people can still find you based on the portfolio that you create online. That happens every year, I would say, and that kind of covers the cost of hosting the website, etc. So it's very valuable. A fair bit of the work that I do comes from people being at events that I'm at and seeing me and then coming up and saying, hey, would you be interested in doing an event in this place on this subject? And, would that suit you? And, that kind of, it's word of mouth, but it's also, if somebody's just seen you on stage, it's worth hanging around after the event and chatting to people because, you can be very pleasantly surprised by folks who've been paying attention to how you've been emceeing, and they can come up and just say, here's my card, we need to talk. And that happens a lot. But most of the work that I get, I am very, very grateful to say is from existing clients who just say, do you know what? That was great. Come back and do it again, please. And I'm like,
Lovely.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm there. So it's a very lucky position to be in. I do appreciate it.
Amazing. Well, you've been working hard and for so many years, Oisin, like being on stage and putting all in the hours, the effort. So that's really great to see that the results speak by itself, and then you can ride this wave of joy and performance the way you like it. So that's incredible. So I have this tradition in the podcast. You're welcome. I have this tradition in the podcast to leave the listeners with a thought to ponder. So everyone who've been listening today for our conversation, learning more about you, what would you like people to think during the rest of the day?
Oh.
What kind of question to ask and to ponder on?
I would recommend that folks tuning in would think about what the rise of AI and generative AI means in terms of generating opportunity and how this places a greater importance on face-to-face connections. My personal motto is ABC, or always be connecting. And this is because I have seen in my many, many years, gray hair and everything, that you don't know where people are going to go. It's like you can connect with somebody who works at a record label and then, 5 years later, they are at the head of a tech company and, maybe vice versa. And people can have very interesting and unexpected career pathways. And you don't get to see any of this unless you're connected with them. So please do connect on LinkedIn with me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. And I would recommend that folks watching think about the nature of face-to-face meetings at events, the nature of being connected using tools, platforms such as LinkedIn, and think about if AI and these platforms become gatekeepers in many ways, in order to maybe future-proof your career and your opportunities. Think about the importance of personal connections, face-to-face meetings, going to events, getting on the doorstep of your comfort zone, and what this can do for you. And another thing, I'll just take full advantage of the time being
Go for it, please.
Do kind of push yourself in terms of the people that you might speak to, and be polite, but take the chance and go and speak to the CEO of a company who might be able to help you. If it's obvious they don't have time, make sure you have a card ready, and maybe you ask, could you possibly connect with their PA in terms of connect with a member of their team? That kind of marks you out as a pro. You're not kind of looking to have the perfect pitch conversation right there. It's probably unlikely, but you're just looking to make a connection, maybe get a contact, maybe not with that person, maybe with their team, and just seeing where it can lead you. And another thing I would say, a great kind of byproduct of events is that you get the opportunity to help and support other people. And, if you can imagine what the world would be like if we all supported each other, if we all tried to do favors for each other and, just kind of bring the best out of each other, how powerful that could be. So I think events are a key ingredient in that. I think events are only going to get more important. And thing to remember, very easy, ABC, always be connecting.
All right, Oisin, what a great way to finish the episode. I'm going to leave all the links to connect with you and listen to your show and learn more about your work in the show notes. And ladies and gentlemen, it was Oisin Lunny with us today, a professional MC, moderator, podcaster, musician, I would say, and marketing pro who've seen the growth of the area. I don't know if I forgot anything else to add. Someone who is living off-grid. and brings lots of positive energy and kindness to the world of events and innovation. So thank you everyone who tuned in with us today. Until next time, have a great day wherever you are.